I would like to thank European Network of NHRIs and its Permanent Secretariat for providing me this opportunity to talk about the role of NHRIs in conflict and post-conflict situations. NHRIs are national human rights mechanism with constitutional or legal mandates to monitor, promote, protect human rights. Their mandate, independence, autonomy from government, resources, pluralism, and competencies and power to investigate human rights violations and abuses should comply with Paris principles. NHRIs are often the bridge between the civil society, people, and human rights activists and the government. It holds government accountable and protects people against the ruthless and broke power of states. They raise awareness, monitor states' programs, policies, behavior, forces, and their actions towards people, civil society, media, and other civil and political groups. NHRIs are playing an important role in monitoring human rights situation, promoting human rights through awareness raising and human rights education, and protecting human rights through investigating human rights abuses and violations, both by their own initiatives and by the reference of complaints, reports, or petitions to them by individuals or group of individuals or civil societies. NHRIs must have a broad mandate and should not be limited to focus on one or few human rights thematic areas. Therefore, they should be able to address social, economic, and cultural rights as well as political and civil rights, children's rights, women's rights, the rights of people with disabilities, the rights of returnees, IDPs, migrant workers, and other groups. NHRIs must be independent and autonomous from the government. They must have adequate resources, both financial, human resources, and structures to carry their broad mandates. NHRIs must have competence and power to investigate human rights violations. They have to have access to all places, detention facilities, and could summon and ask for evidence and documents. NHRI's role in normal and peacetime situation and their role in conflict and post-conflict situation are similar in protection and promotion of human rights, but could deviate on the basis of operation, priorities, target groups, jurisdictions, and risks and challenges. NHRIs are acting as an impartial, objective, and autonomous entity in conflict situations. They function as an early warning system and take preventive actions against the recurrence of conflicts. They monitor civilians and report violations of human rights in armed conflict. They advise parties to conflict on protection, fulfillment, and respect of human rights. NHRIs could provide valuable advice, important information, and clear guidance to parties to conflict on how they can respect, protect, and fulfill human rights during war and conflicts. NHRIs can raise awareness about human rights and educate parties to conflict about human rights obligations. Educating militaries and building the capacity of security and defense forces are important steps NHRIs are taking. A best practice was the HRC initiative to train the Afghan national and defense forces to protect human rights and on international humanitarian law. NHRIs document, collect evidence, and investigate human rights violations during conflict. NHRIs investigation is different from the investigation of judiciary or a criminal systems investigation. Therefore, NHRIs report and investigation must be considered and further investigated by states parties through proper channels, and effective remedies must be in place. NHRIs must hold all parties to conflict accountable. They have a role to investigate and verify breaches of human rights law and humanitarian laws. They can play an important role in mitigating the impact of war and conflict to civilians. One of the best practices could be civilian casualty rapid response team to be deployed and investigate human rights situations and abuses during the armed conflict. NHRIs can initiate their own programs and mechanisms for promotion and protection of human rights. Their role in monitoring the situation, investigating human rights violations, reporting about civilian casualties, engaging in transitional justice debate, accountability, and victim-centered approach and documentation are important lessons in the post-conflict settings. NHRIs are with broad mandate. They work with victims, with IDPs, returnees, with people with disabilities in war and conflict, and make advocacies for their rights and compensation to the victims. They devise mitigation system for minimizing the effect of war on civilian, women, children, people with disabilities, minorities, and civil and human rights activists. They protect them against violence, reprisals, and harmful traditions. NHRIs are preventing the violations of international human rights law and international humanitarian law by monitoring detention, investigating torture, degrading and inhuman treatment of enemy detainees. NHRIs are an effective mechanism to promote peace, coexistence, and reconciliation between communities suffered from war, conflict, and internal strifes. They often can design programs and projects that bring people and communities together and expand the space for peace. NHRs play a role in promoting the role of women in peace and security. They lend their weight and tap on their resources to promote the role of women in peace and security. They advocate for the implementation of the Resolution 1325. My commission in 2018, for example, launched an initial inquiry on women, peace and security that resulted to the louder voice and greater participation of women in peace talks and political negotiations in Afghanistan. NHRIs can monitor political disputes and conflicts arising from elections, political demonstrations, and rallies. They can help that both state forces and political entities adhere to the rules and peaceful conduct. NHRIs play a role in monitoring the implementation of these SDGs. They can promote discussion, protecting the environment, and gender equalities. NHRIs could pioneer in front-loading information and awareness on upcoming challenges and take part in regional and international efforts for promotion and protection of human rights. NHRI's role in UPR and alternative submission to treaty bodies, as well as facilitating and assisting special procedures, are important in promoting and protecting human rights. I hope that we live in a world free of fear and free of want, and I would like to salute all human rights defenders and human rights activists. They are heroes.